Hello, everybody. It is great to be here one more time today. My name is Gary Fowler. I'm the CEO, president, and founder of GSD, Get Shit Done Venture Studios, a premier AI and quantum venture studio located in the heart of Silicon Valley. I'm a 17-time serial entrepreneur with several unicorns under the belt. I was on the original management team at Click Software, which was sold to Salesforce for $1.35 billion, and also Eva.ai, your virtual assistant, which was acquired by Vizier in Canada. At GST, we believe that intellectual capacity is evenly spread around the world, but opportunities are not. And today I have an incredible guest today. Michael Castellano is a serial entrepreneur, has a tremendous amount of experience in areas like AI, national strategy, and innovation. And today we're going to talk about that. So I'd like to bring Michael on board. Hi, Michael. How are you today?
Very well. Thank you, Gary. How are you?
Fantastic. Let's talk about where we are today. So, how is AI really reshaping the way nations think about their future, economically, socially, and militarily?
So I think one of the most important things to remember about AI is that AI is essentially just guessing at what it thinks the next most likely sentence is in the sentence, right? So it gathers a lot of its information from what's already been written, what's already on the internet, what people have already put out there. Today's version of AI essentially gathers all of that information, and what it does is it makes it a lot quicker for people to get answers to things that maybe they might have looked for in a book or on the web or had to research. So the information's out there. What AI is doing is just condensing it and making responses faster. So how does it shape the world in which we live? Well, people are acting quicker. They're making decisions faster. Information is more readily available, and it's moving at an exponentially increasing rate. What this means is that the world is becoming a lot smaller. Something could be written in Poland, in Warsaw, and 15 minutes later, we're all talking about it in the United States, or the other way around. So the world is much smaller, things are moving faster, and AI is making it a lot easier for governments, countries, organizations, companies, and people to know the same or similar information at the fastest rate ever imagined in human history.
So, when we talk about national strategy and in the context of AI, why is it so important to the U.S. now compared to before?
Well, America's always been a leader. It's been a leader since its inception. I mean, the founding fathers were essentially entrepreneurs. They were a bunch of guys who got together and said, here's an enlightened idea. Here's a brilliant new way to set up a country and to set up a government. So, they were a startup. They were a small handful of visionaries, and they got together and they said, hey, we have a better idea than this King George, right? And we're going to set up a system of due process, check and balance, a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. And so that was sort of a creative entrepreneurial idea. And I would argue that America has been an innovator ever since. It's been innovating in the way we think about legislation. It's been innovating in machinery. It innovated during the Industrial Revolution, and it's leading the way in innovation today. And it's not just limited to AI. It's next generation energy, quantum computing, artificial intelligence, and robotics. The best companies are located here in America. There are fine companies elsewhere in other countries, but as of right now, if you want to be a leader in the space of any of those industries or innovations I just mentioned, you got to be in America. You have to be either in the Silicon Valley or you have to be somewhere where one of those companies is located, because that is what's leading the way in next generation tech.
So, you look at it, you've got this competition between China and the U.S. and others really positioning themselves and the global AI race. What can we learn from those approaches, and how the companies like DeepSeek, what do they mean for the national strategy?
I think it's really interesting. I view China as a very interesting colleague. Um, what they did with DeepSeek was that they demonstrated to the world that with $6 million and some hard work and some ingenuity, you could make an AI product that's very valuable and useful. Now, that in no way denigrates the value of something like Sam's OpenAI or Elon's Grok. It doesn't mean they're less valuable. But it teaches the world that with a little bit of capital, a little bit of chutzpah, and a little bit of creative thinking, you can create some pretty interesting tech in AI. And I think that's actually a good message. I think that's a message for small tech, for young entrepreneurs. I don't think the ship has sailed for anything. I think if you've got a good idea and a good vision, you can get in the game too, and you can create something that's valuable. So DeepSeek is very similar to Grok and ChatGPT and some of those other LLMs. It's very similar. But what China did is they demonstrated that the open source technology is out there, the code's out there, and if people want to put some capital together and put a team together, they can create some really great products. DeepSeek is a good product. It's not the best product, but they did it on a shoestring budget, and so that's a good message for the world. That means that if you're lean, there's still room to create a good product in the AI space.
Now, what happens if you use DeepSeek and you've got a lot of proprietary information? Where does it go?
This is a very good question. This is a good question that is applicable to every LLM out there. This is applicable to where does your data go when you're talking to Grok? Where does your data go when you're talking to ChatGPT? Where does your data go with anything on the internet? The answer to that question is it always goes to a database. That's the answer.
And then what happens to that database? Do you think that information could be used against us?
Well, we're gonna have to phone a friend. We're gonna have to call Larry Ellison, and we're gonna have to ask Larry, where's the data? What's going on with the data? Because that's a very difficult technical question. There are some much smarter people in the database world who know the intricacies better than I do. But the answer to your question is all the data goes to a database. There's big players out there. Obviously, people know the name Larry Ellison. And how that data is secure, which databases it goes to originally, where it gets copied, who gets access to what. These are exactly the type of things that companies and countries are negotiating right now.
How serious do you think the U.S. is in terms of AI and quantum computers right now? I know you deal with a lot of those folks. How serious are we about it? And do we understand what happens if we don't spend some time and, lead it?
Well, I think that President Trump has done an amazing job at bringing smart people together. There is an effort right now to make sure that America leads the way with AI and quantum computing. And there are some really smart people in the field. Kathy Wood with ARC Ventures. I think that they're doing some really interesting things, bringing those two different technologies together. And I would also argue that while Trump himself might not be a technologist, he's at least intuitive enough to know that we need to be surrounded by some good technology people, some smart people who understand this stuff at a deeper level. So this is why people like Elon and technologists like Larry Ellison and Sam Altman have been brought in. This is why they announced Stargate at the White House. This goes to show that this administration is very serious at making sure that people who understand AI, robotics, quantum computing, and next generation energy are at the table, and that their opinions are heard and that people value their opinions.
Yeah, we're getting some feedback. So insightful. These talks are great. Thanks, Gary. So we're getting different people writing us about it. So they're interested in this thing. So what do you think? I mean, what is the competition right now with China? How do we stack up against China in terms of the progress that we have with AI and quantum, and is there any danger that we can be left behind?
Well, I think it's really interesting to look at what makes America and China different. So China, as many people know, is a centralized system. The CCP is a central government, and all of the officials essentially answer to that centralized government. What are the advantages of centralization? The advantages of centralization means that China is able to basically pull in data from everywhere, and there's not much that's going to stop them. There's not much that's going to stop the CCP from saying, okay, all you citizens, okay, all of you corporations, we're going to feed all of the data into our AI models, and it's going to know everything. Now, what's the downside? The downside to that has always been authoritarianism. It's always been lack of privacy. It was the exact war that the American revolutionaries fought against King George. It was this concept of we don't want a centralized power, a monarchy, because it could lead to tyranny. Okay, so that's the plus and the minus that China has. So now let's look at the American system. The American system is a constitutional republic. We, the people, have a lot to say in how things go. The benefit of that is we can have much more strength around privacy. We can have much more strength around owning our data, right? The individual can actually own their data and can say how they want it to be used, whether or not they think they should be compensated or monetized. So there's a much more sovereign individuality and ownership here in America. What's the downside? The downside is there's lots of different corporations, there's lots of different organizations, and there's lots of different agendas. So you could get a situation where it's difficult to have these models to become super intelligent because maybe people don't want to share information. Maybe there are different agendas that are leaning towards some information but holding back other information, right? So you don't get the full picture. I think as long as America gets good at sharing and collaboration and cooperation between companies, people, and even the two parties, even between Republicans and Democrats, as long as we get good at sharing and collaborating, then the downside to our system won't be as big of a downside. And we'll put proper mechanisms in place so that people's privacy is protected, they own their data, and at the same time, our systems are head and shoulders above the rest because they've got access to great data and they're not stifled through too much bureaucracy and too much tug of war between parties and agendas.
So I know you've been doing a lot of different events in Florida. When you deal with these policy leaders, what's the biggest, what is the big focus right now? Is it AI? Is it quantum in the tech side? What are they really focused on?
I think that the answer to that question is everything. The the best leaders who I've spoken to, they're interested in a healthy America. They're interested in a peaceful world. They're interested in innovation that makes people's lives better. And I don't think that you can just look at one of those things, because everything's tied together right now. So if we're going to have innovation in the area of AI, and we're also interested in people's health, then we have to make sure that AI is used to find out what in the system is making people sick, not to be used to sell people more drugs, right? And if too many people are spending too much time on their screens on these LLMs, well, that's not good either. And so we have to make sure that the ultimate goal is that America stays healthy, America stays wealthy, and that innovation is used to do what the founding fathers always wanted to be done, which was to create a more perfect union. And that extends to our allies, our partners. That extends to everyone who is just trying to make the average day a little bit better. What do these big technologies change? They change everything. They're going to change the way that we work. They're going to change global trade. But the people who I've spoken to, I think they're pretty serious about making sure that it's done in such a way where things improve. And if it looks like something is not good, either from a health perspective or from a trade imbalance or something like that, then it's not going to get pushed through. It's not going to get legislated. It's not going to get passed. The folks that I've talked to understand that these are all tools, and they're tools to be used to improve the lives of the average citizen, wherever that citizen is.
So, you look at it, if we look at China right now and the global AI race, what can we learn from the approach that they're taking? I know you said that we talked about the centralized approach, but let's talk about the global. Is it just about AI, or is it about global economic competition?
Here's a big question. The big question is, what is China really after? What are they after? They have 1.4 billion people. That's a big population to manage. What we know about China is we know that China is a bit of an isolationist mentality. I think something like only 2% of the people in China speak English, or maybe it's more, but
Mm-hmm.
it's a small percentage. They've not shown much interest in being part of the World Wide Web. They have the Great Firewall of China. So what are they doing? They're keeping everything at home. Is that a threat? I don't know. I don't think I'm qualified to speak on the intentions of the CCP. You'd have to interview them. America, on the other hand, JD Vance went to France, and he told the whole world, we want to partner with you, right? He told all of America's allies, we want to partner with you. And we want to do it in such a way that's not overly restrictive. We don't want all of these EU rules and regulations that bog us down. But as long as you're okay with that, we want to partner with you. And so America has had a more open approach and said, hey, look, anybody anywhere in the world, we want to partner with you. And oh, by the way, if you want to move to America, we'll give you great laws, low taxes. We'll give you and your business everything you need to be successful. So I think that's a good approach. I can't speak to the intentions of the CCP, but from what I've seen and heard, the current administration has, in my opinion, meant what they said. They want to partner with other countries, and they want people to move to America to start great businesses.
So that being said, that's great, Michaels. What role should governments play in regulating AI versus letting innovations run free? And what kind of balance do you need to have? Because you start getting into things like sentience, and everything changes. So, what do you think?
Yeah, I've spoken to some people that, they're full throttle, foot on the gas, just let it rip. And while that's exciting and interesting, and for the most part, that's kind of the way that it's been going. And that's exciting. I think it's like race car driving. I really do. I think the best analogy is like race car driving. You want to be driving the fastest you can possibly without hitting a wall, bumping into some other car, or spinning out of control.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually think in this regard, it's a good idea for America to be a very fast race car driver that's also competent enough not to crash. So what does not crashing look like? Not crashing looks like anticipating what bad actors are going to do with AI, understanding that people can use your voice to call you and fake you out. They can use video to make something seem real that's not real. They can take a celebrity or a relative of yours, and um, they can make them look like they're saying or doing something that maybe they didn't do or say. But we can think through all these things. So that's the brakes, and those are the guardrails. We have to think about that first. We have to anticipate these, what bad actors can do with great tech, and we have to be 3 steps ahead of them. And it's not hard. This isn't magic or hocus pocus. We know what AI can do. We know it can replicate your voice. We know it can replicate the way you look and sound. So we just need to have guardrails to make sure that we're 3 steps ahead of the bad actors, so that we have tech that can identify a fake, and that we have AI that's policing other AI to make sure that it's not malicious.
Do you think we're in a risk of an AI arms race?
No. I wouldn't call it an arms race in the way of conventional traditional weaponry. And the reason is because traditional weaponry by its definition is destructive. The atom bomb could only do one thing, and that's blow up a small city. And so from that perspective, it lacks the same type of characteristics that we saw during the Cold War, or during the nuclear escalation between the US and Russia. AI is different. AI, by its definition, is not necessarily destructive. AI, by its definition, is useful. And so because of that factor, what's really happening between DeepSeek, ChatGPT, Grok, what's really happening thus far is everyone's trying to figure out how to make a more useful tool. And so from that perspective, iron sharpens iron. DeepSeek is better because it learned a thing or two from ChatGPT and Grok. And I can only imagine, with the billions and billions that Sam has, and the team over at ChatGPT, I can only imagine that they are now, with Operator and deep research, they are making a tool that is even more useful than the versions that we've been seeing today. So no, I can't call it an arms race. That doesn't feel fair. AI by definition is not destructive. And until I see something that's really gnarly, and has hurt a lot of people, thus far everyone's been playing pretty nice in the sandbox, and every tool thus far has been pretty useful. And the negative consequences of AI have been really, really, really small. I can't think of, I can't even count on one hand how many times it's been used for some type of large scale problem.
When you go down through it, we're coming up to the top of the show, Michael. So what are your closing thoughts, and how do people get a hold of you?
They can text me. I'm not shy about my phone number. I give it out pretty freely. And if they have questions, I'm more than happy to answer them. I would say this. I would say that for me, the most exciting way to get questions answered are to talk to some of these AI systems. At our company, we created a tool named James. He's like these other systems, but he's different. And Engager is leaning more towards something that's audio visual, not just text based, but kind of looks like a person and looks like this. So I would say first ask James. That's kind of first line of questioning, and then if there's any questions beyond that, feel free to reach out to me directly.
Nah, that's great. Well, Michael, thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us today. And thanks to all my audience for joining one more time. GSD presents Silicon Valley AI and Tech. My name is Gary Fowler, and I am your host. Stay happy, stay safe, and stay healthy. And I'll back to you again next Tuesday for another exciting edition. Thanks, Michael. Have a nice rest of the day, and thanks, everybody. Enjoy yourself. Thank you.
Thank you.